Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are here for the first time, my name is Sam. I am a photographer with 12 years experience in the business, and I am here to teach you the behind the scenes and the things that nobody tells you about what it's like to be a professional photographer. On today's video, I'm going to teach you how to start a photography side hustle the easiest way. What does a side hustle mean? A side hustle is a job that you kind of do on the side, something that you do on evenings and weekends or kind of around your main job. What this means is that you already have a main source of income, a job that provides for you, and you want to start photography a little bit on the side. Now, there are different reasons to do this. One of the reasons is fear. A lot of people are scared to start their own business and kind of quit their job and go full-time freelance. I totally get it. Another reason to do this is for people who want to just supplement their income. They have a job they like and they simply want to find a way to make a little bit extra money. They have a hobby with photography, they like doing it, and I maybe thought, why not make a little money? I know of some people that got into photography as a side hustle because a cousin or a friend or somebody was like, hey, you have a nice camera, I'm getting married, would you take some photos at my wedding? What would you charge to do this? I love this, and the reason why I love this, it's because that's how it started for me. When I started as a photographer, I bought myself a camera, taught myself how to use it, and kind of fell in love with taking photos. I was bringing my camera everywhere, I was shooting everything, and everybody kind of started to see that this is what I was doing. It didn't take long until people were like, you should bring your camera and you should take some photos. And it didn't take long for some people to say, hey, how much can I pay you to bring your camera and take some photos for me? Now, if it wouldn't have taken someone to come to me and offer me money to take photos, it literally wouldn't have even occurred to me that I could make money as a photographer. So this is a great way to start. This is a great place to test your comfort zone, to see if you like taking your hobby into a business and to really test your skills in a bit of a high pressure environment without really the pressure of being a professional and having to deliver, right? When somebody asks this for you as a favor and gives you an honorarium just for your time, they're really not having high expectations. And this is obviously not like a huge gig, something that they're really dependent on these photos coming out 100%. So I always find that getting started this way is the easiest way to break that barrier between never having shot professionally and getting paid to do photography. So do I think it's a good idea to start a photography side hustle? Absolutely. It is much easier to start this way than trying to go full on, quit your job and give it all. You're gonna be putting too much pressure in your photography and in things happening and in making money to make this work, and it might take the joy out of shooting. Sidebar though, I do have to tell you, I did quit my job cold turkey and jumped into photography with the hope that it will work, and there are benefits to doing that as well. What I like about doing that was that I had to make ends meet and it had to work, and I had no choice but to make a living as a photographer. So when you pull the rug from under your feet, things tend to work because you have no choice but to make them work. Now, when I quit my last ever full-time job, it was a photography job. I felt confident in my skills and I had been shooting freelance on the side for maybe a year or two. So keep in mind that there was a little bit of my experience there for me to be able to do that confidently. Now let's get into the one thing that I consider a drawback about doing photography as a side hustle instead of as a full-time job, and that is the fact that all the business setup and all the hard things about setting up a photography business are the same while you're getting less rewards or less income out of it. So you're still gonna have to set up your business legally, you're still gonna have to figure out perfect client workflow, you're still gonna have to buy professional equipment, you're still gonna have to understand how to edit photos, how to import them, how to deliver them, and how to store them. You're still going to have to invoice, contract, get deposit, get full payment, basically all of the things that are running a business behind the scenes as a professional photographer, you're still gonna have to do when you're doing a side hustle. Of course, not on your very first gig and not right off the bat at the beginning, but these are things that you're gonna have to eventually do, and if you don't know how to do them, you might be a little unconfident, you might be a little stressed, and you might run into trouble. If you're not charging a deposit, if you're not signing a contract, you might get into issues when you don't deliver images, when your camera breaks, when the client doesn't like the photos, etc, etc, etc. I don't want to scare you with all the potential things that can go wrong, but I will tell you that I've had them all go wrong at one time or another, and that's how I learned what things I needed to have in place to work as a professional. As a side note, if this is something you want to learn, if you know you want to become a photographer, if this is what you want to do with your life and with your career, I help photographers just like you launch and grow their businesses of photography regardless where you live and what kind of photography you do. So if that's something that is interesting to you, you can leave me a comment below and we can get in touch. So now that's out of the way, you know why I think it's a good idea to get started as a side hustle photographer and why it might not be a great idea for some people. I want to talk about what it's actually like to do this. Now, you might think it's so simple. You just sit there and wait for people to reach out to you, and if something comes up, great, you can just do it. Yes, it could be like that, but you could also go at it intentionally. What I mean about this is when you set an intention, when you create a goal, when you know what kind of photographer you want to be and what kind of work you want to do, you can actually put the word out there and you can look for work and you can let people know this is what you do, and that is going to actually turn into more work and better work. Why? Because people want to work with people that have one area of expertise. So if you want to start a side hustle and you want to do a little bit of photography, it will be a great idea for you to decide what kind of photos you want to take. Do you want to take commercial photos? Do you want to take wedding photos? Do you want to do maternity? Do you want to do family shoots? Do you want to do product photography? Do you want to do social media content? Maybe also even videos and TikTok. Once you decide that, you can start thinking about who your potential clients would be and what are good ways to offer your services and reach out to them, or what is a good comfort level for you to create a package that you can offer. You can even reach out to friends and family and say, hey, I'm starting out this side hustle. I'm not going to be charging a lot at the beginning. I am just testing it out. What do you think you could use photography for? Or is this something that you could use my services for? That's a great way to start. The other way great to start is simply setting a goal. Maybe you want to shoot every weekend. Maybe you want to do one photo shoot a month. Maybe your goal is to get to your first wedding. Set a goal. Pick what it is that you want to get out of the side hustle, and then you can work towards making that happen. For example, if your goal is to shoot weddings on the side, maybe elopements, maybe small weddings, a great way to get started is reaching out to photographers in your community or people that you know and asking to volunteer or bring your camera, shoot for free at the beginning to get a little bit experience and to get a little bit of portfolio, so then you can use this to get clients. It's not the same if your goal is to be doing, for example, maternity or newborn photography. A great way to start, of course, is reaching out to any friends or anyone you know that is pregnant or has a new baby and offering to do some photos for them. There are different ways to start and there are different ways to grow your experience, your portfolio based on what you want to do. And the most important thing here is to keep in mind your goal, because if you start saying yes to everything, you're gonna get overwhelmed. You are going to feel a little bit run over, and all of a sudden you're gonna have so many images to edit, so much work to do that eventually you're gonna be like, I don't want to do this anymore. I know this for a fact because I've been there. So if you're clear about your goals and you're saying, I only want to do this once a month, or I only want to do X amount of shoots a year, it's a great way to stay accountable, to make sure you don't ruin your love and your passion for photography, and that you give yourself a chance to test and try whether you like doing it as a business or not. It is also much easier when you set goals to figure out how much money you can make and what is the actual income that can come from photography. If you're doing all kinds of shoots and you're a little bit all over the place, you're gonna find that you're charging a little bit here and a little bit there, and you're not gonna have a clear understanding of A, how much you can charge, B, how long it takes to actually shoot, and C, how long it takes to actually edit and deliver. So if you're doing this as a side hustle and you have a main job, you might find that you cannot control how much time it actually takes to complete a full shoot. So it's always good to have a clear goal and work towards that. Another thing that is important to talk about is pricing and rates. Even if you are doing this as a side hustle, eventually you want to be taken seriously and as a professional photographer. If you approach shoots as a part-timer or as someone who, well, I already have a main job, so I don't really care how much I make, there are a few bad things that are going to happen. The first thing is you're going to undervalue yourself. You're going to think, well, any money is better than no money, so I'm just going to try it. You're going to undervalue yourself to your potential clients because they're not going to see the value on what you do. They're going to think, oh, well, this is cheap. This is a service I can get anywhere. They're really not going to put a lot of effort into the exchange. They are going to probably be disappointed when you have a client with low expectations. They all of a sudden already assume that you're not going to deliver at a high standard. And the last thing is you are risking burnout. If you're not getting paid enough for the work that you're doing and you're over delivering and you're doing too much, eventually you're going to feel like it's not worth it and you're not going to want to do it. Actually, one more thing, this is going to ruin you long term. If you start with really low rates, because you don't care, because it's a side hustle, it's gonna be actually really, really, really hard to get out of that and eventually start charging more. So yes, when you're a beginner, you wanna charge less than professional photographers out there, but you don't wanna charge so little that people don't think of you as a professional. So the point that I'm getting at here is it is important to figure out your rates when you're going into photography as a side hustle. Whether you're gonna be doing 1 shoot a month, 3 shoots a year, or trying to work every weekend, you need to take the time to sit down, do the research, and figure out what is your rates. I'm gonna have another video for you that talks about figuring out your rates and coming up with your packages as a photographer, so definitely stay tuned for that. Last but not least, I want to talk about the most important thing when it comes to building a photography side hustle, and that is your mindset. I always teach my students about this technique called RAS. It is a reticular activating system, and it's actually kind of Google for your brain. RAS is like the algorithm for your brain. It is the filter that your brain puts through the world to decide what's important for you and what's not. What do I mean by this? Let me give you an example. Have you ever bought a new pair of shoes or a new car or a new piece of clothes, and then all of a sudden you start walking around and everybody had the same thing? So you bought the new Nikes, you love them, you've always wanted them, you finally have them, and then all of a sudden you're out in the street and every single person seems to have the same shoes as you. Or you buy a red car and then all of a sudden every car you see is red. This is not a coincidence, and it is also not that all of a sudden people are buying the same thing as you are. This is your RAS. This is your brain categorizing whatever it is that you just bought as something important, as something noticeable, and then it's paying attention around you and noticing this thing. This is the same way the algorithm works on the internet, except they're using your data when you're searching things and when you're using the internet, and they're deciding what they think you consider important. So what am I getting at with this? Your reticular activating system is going to decide what matters and what doesn't matter, and it's going to pick up cues around to send you signals. So if you decide, I am a photographer, if you immerse yourself in the life of a photographer, if everything you do and think and breathe and talk about is photography, your brain is going to start picking up photography everywhere. All of a sudden, you're gonna be at a dinner with friends and somebody's gonna say, so-and-so is getting married, and you're gonna go, I wonder if they have a photographer. Or somebody's gonna say, we're pregnant, and your first thought is gonna be, I wonder if they would like to have photos for the next 9 months of their pregnancy. Or somebody's gonna say, my friend started a new pizza business, and you're gonna think they're gonna need an Instagram. I wonder if they have photos. You are going to start seeing opportunities everywhere, and these are the opportunities that I want you to jump on and go, I'm a photographer. Can I help? Is there anything I can do? Once you start doing this, once you start introducing yourself to everyone as a photographer, this is going to become a thing for other people too. You're going to enter their RAS system, which means if they think of you as a photographer, if you are the first thought that comes to mind when they think photography, when somebody says, I need a photographer, you're gonna be the first person they think about. So, in presenting yourself as a photographer, even if it is a side hustle and even if you have a full-time job, I still want you to say, I am a photographer. Because if you do this, the world around you is going to start changing. I promise you. The last thing I want to say, guys, is literally a warning. I am here to warn you that if you start photography as a side hustle, it might turn into what you want to do forever. I cannot stress enough the transformation that it was for me to quit my full-time job and become a freelance photographer literally 10 years ago. I've always dreamed of doing this. I never thought I was good enough to do it. And honestly, I was surrounded by people around me with normal jobs who told me what I wanted didn't exist, traveling the world, having freedom, working from home, choosing my clients. Everybody told me that sounded great, but nobody got to do that. And for a long time, I believed them. But when I actually took a chance on myself and realized that if I don't try it now, I don't want to live the rest of my life in regret, I actually never looked back. I can tell you that from the day I became a professional freelance photographer and I quit my last ever full-time job, my life has gotten better. I've made more money, and every single year has become more profitable than the last. So here is your warning. If you start this as a side hustle, you might soon realize you don't want to work with anyone else. You don't want to show up at an office 40 hours a week of your precious time, and you're gonna get to a place where you go, what am I doing with my life? I want to do this forever. All right, guys, I think that's everything for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, feel free to leave me a comment below. I will be reading everything, and we'll see you next time.